Welcome to Greenland. To most people around the world, Greenland appears to be nothing more than a huge white mass at the top of the globe, a frozen desert of endless ice and snow. On maps, it dominates the Arctic with its incredible size, yet it remains one of the least understood places on the planet. Although geographically part of North America, Greenland has been closely linked to Europe for centuries, and today functions as an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Its native population, the Inuit, calls it Kalalit Nunaat, which means the land of the people. It's a name that reflects not the inhospitable landscape itself, but the extraordinary communities that have managed to thrive there for thousands of years. Greenland covers more than 2.1 million square kilometers, making it the largest island on Earth that is not considered a continent. However, appearances are deceiving. Almost 80% of this immense territory is buried under a layer of ice. Due to this enormous ice sheet, almost the entire population lives along the narrow coastal strip, small towns, and this brings us to one of the most surprising facts about Greenland. There are no roads connecting its towns. No highways link Nuuk, Ilulissat, Sisimiut, or any other major city in the country. For people living in virtually any other part of the world, this idea is almost unimaginable. Driving to another city for work, visiting family on the weekend, or taking a spontaneous road trip simply doesn't exist here. Instead, Greenland has developed a completely different transportation system, a system built around nature, not asphalt. During the short Arctic summer, when the sea ice recedes, the ocean becomes the country's main transportation route. Passenger ferries connect coastal communities, fishing boats, transport supplies, and cargo ships deliver virtually everything the country needs, from fresh fruit to building materials and fuel. Small private boats are common and, for many families, are as essential as automobiles are in other parts of the world. The kayak, one of humanity's oldest and most ingenious inventions, was originally developed by the Inuit ancestors of Greenland thousands of years ago. Made from driftwood. When winter arrives, however, everything changes. The Arctic Ocean begins to freeze, the fjords become enormous. Snowmobiles replace boats, allowing residents to travel across frozen terrain that would otherwise be inaccessible. However, despite all the modern technology, an ancestral form of transportation continues to survive and remains deeply respected. The traditional dog sled, pulled by powerful Greenland sled dogs bred specifically for Arctic conditions, these sleds transported game animals. But perhaps the most extraordinary form of transportation in Greenland happens above ground. Since roads between towns don't exist, the weather controls everything. A sudden snowstorm, a dense fog sweeping across a fjord, or powerful Arctic winds can paralyze flights for hours or even days. Locals have learned that patience isn't just a virtue here. It's an essential survival skill. Plans are always flexible because, despite these extraordinary challenges, Greenland is far from being a wild and primitive region. Many people still imagine Greenland as a place where everyone lives in isolated igloos, wearing heavy fur clothing year-round. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nuuk, the country's capital, surprises almost every first-time visitor. Instead of a frozen outpost, Nuuk looks like a modern Scandinavian city, built directly into one of the most remote regions in the world. Modern apartment buildings offer stunning views of crystal-clear fjords. High-speed fiber-optic internet connects homes and businesses. Schools, universities, shopping centers, museums, cafes, hospitals, and cultural spaces create a vibrant urban environment that rivals many European cities. Nearly a third of Greenland's entire population lives here, making Nuuk the country's political, cultural, and economic heart. However, what truly makes Nuuk unique isn't its modern architecture. It's what lies just beyond. From an office window, residents can watch humpback whales surfacing in the fjord. Enormous icebergs float silently in the water just a few kilometers away. During the winter, the aurora borealis dances across the city's skyline, painting the night sky with waves of green and purple. Few capital cities on Earth offer such an extraordinary combination of modern civilization and unspoiled nature. For the inhabitants of Greenland, this contrast is part of everyday life. In the outskirts of Nuuk, however, Greenland reveals a completely different reality. As the colorful skyline of the capital disappears behind the mountains, civilization gradually gives way to a landscape that seems untouched by time. Small villages, some with fewer than 100 inhabitants, inhabit this region. There are no shopping malls here, no traffic lights, no highways. In many villages, there is only a small market, a school, a church, and a few brightly painted wooden houses, resisting the relentless Arctic winds. These vibrant colors are much more than mere decoration. For centuries, houses were traditionally painted in different colors according to the profession of their owners. Red buildings often belonged to fishermen or merchants. Yellow was commonly associated with hospitals and health services. Blue represented the fishing industry, while green sometimes identified churches or public buildings. Against the endless backdrop of white snow and gray rock, these vibrant colors stood out. Life in these settlements follows a rhythm that has changed very little over generations. Nature determines everything. The sea decides when people can travel. The weather determines when supplies arrive. The ice determines if hunting is possible. Unlike modern cities, where technology controls daily routines, the inhabitants of Greenland understand that survival depends on adapting to the environment, not on trying to dominate it. For thousands of years, the Inuit people have mastered this balance. Their ancestors traversed the Arctic using knowledge passed down orally through countless generations. They learned to interpret snowdrifts, recognize safe sea ice, and predict storms by observing. Much of this knowledge remains alive today. Although satellite navigation, weather forecasting, and smartphones have become commonplace, experienced hunters still rely on their instincts, developed over decades of living on the ice. A wrong decision can become. In winter, temperatures often drop below -30 degrees Celsius, while strong Arctic winds create wind chills close to -50 degrees or even lower. Exposed skin can suffer frostbite in a matter of minutes because it is survival equipment. Modern Greenlandians often wear advanced thermal jackets, waterproof boots, insulating gloves, and multiple layers of protection designed specifically for Arctic environments. However, tradition. Food is another fascinating part of daily life. The growing season is extremely short, and the frozen ground makes large-scale agriculture virtually impossible in most of the island. As a result, the ocean becomes Greenland's supermarket. Fishing sustains thousands of families across the country. Every morning, fishermen venture into icy waters in search of halibut, cod, Arctic trout, shrimp. For local families, however, fishing is much more than an economic activity. It's a way of life. Fresh fish appears on dinner tables almost every day, prepared in dozens of different ways, from hearty soups and smoked fillets to the traditional dried fish that can be preserved for months without refrigeration. Hunting. Outside of Greenland, hunting often has negative connotations. Here, however, it represents something completely different. It is carefully regulated, deeply respected, and essential for survival in many remote communities. Hunters pursue seals, reindeer, musk oxen, and, under strict government quotas, deer. Nothing is wasted. This principle is sacred. Meat feeds entire families. Fat provides valuable information. Bones are transformed into tools, works of art, or traditional sculptures. Animal hides are transformed into incredibly warm clothing, boots, gloves, and equipment, capable of withstanding temperatures that would overwhelm most modern materials. This philosophy reflects a deep respect for nature. Each successful hunt is understood as a gift, not a victory. Perhaps one of Greenland's greatest assets is its sense of community. In remote settlements, neighbors depend on each other. If someone's snowmobile breaks down during the winter, others immediately help. If a hunter returns with a large catch, the food is usually shared among several families. If storms prevent supply ships from arriving, communities work together to ensure everyone has enough resources. One of the most beautiful traditions that expresses this spirit is the kafamik. A kafamik is much more than a simple gathering. It's an open-door party where friends, relatives, and neighbors come together. If you enjoyed this documentary, please give it a like. Your support helps us create more high-quality content and bring these incredible stories to even more people around the world. And now we'd love to hear from you. Which remote hidden country? Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of Secret Earth. And remember, the world is far more than we can. Until the next adventure.